I am Lindsay Owens and I am the Primary PE Specialist at LLS. I began my journey in sport by studying a BA Honours in Physical Education, Sport and Dance at Liverpool John Moores University. Within my degree I participated in a range of sports, I learned about new sports, I learned a range of topics such as physiology and psychology in sport, and I also gained 4 placements on my 4-year degree. So the 4 placements that I had involved a primary placement and 3 secondary placements. The first primary placement was really interesting because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to teach in the young years or the older years, so that gave me an insight that I actually had to teach across all the areas and I wasn't just specialising in PE. So although it was a really enjoyable experience, at that time I knew I wanted to just teach PE alone as a pure focus. So on the next 3 placements I did staggered start, so it was 8 weeks, 10 weeks and 12 weeks over the duration of the 3 years, and I learnt lots. And I think it's really important that you learn from the members of staff around you, because every placement that you do is totally different and you're going to learn skills that maybe other staff won't have when you go into a new school. So it is really important that you take notes as well. One of the most important things that I remember doing is after every placement, every day in the placement, I used to come home and write down everything that I can remember from the day, because you never knew when you might need it. Simple things like how they dealt with behaviour, what they did in the lesson to make it a little bit more interesting than maybe something that you probably would have done before. And it was from there that in my final placement that I secured my first teaching job. So it's really important that you learn from the people around you and you always ask questions. And because of that, I was able to keep in touch with those people, and when the job arose, obviously they knew what my capabilities was, and I got a job from there, so I was very fortunate. So after securing my first teaching job should I say, I decided then I wanted to try and go through career-wise in terms of maybe getting more roles and responsibilities. So I made that decision to apply for a range of different roles. The first one that I got was to be in charge of a student mentor. So for me that was a really good opportunity to put into practice what I'd gone through, and also an opportunity so I could relate to the people that were coming through to teaching. And I always remember one of the hardest things I ever went through was in my second placement. So my first placement is a secondary school, and the mentor that I had then was so difficult in terms of she just wanted me to do everything, and although I was only second year, I felt like she was making me do things that maybe I should have done at year 4. But having said that, all that experience obviously boded well for me in the long run, but at the time I found it really, really tough. She was someone who I couldn't really approach, and I found myself having to speak to other people outside of university, and obviously when I went back to university lectures, that I could relate to people saying, oh, I had this mentor and so on, and you know, no matter what she threw at me, it got to a point where I was like, well, I'm going to do it. I've got 8 weeks of this placement. I can either throw in the towel now or I can carry on. And every other placement, people would guarantee to me that they would all be different, and the mentors that you had would all be different. So although she was very strict and she had very good authority and her lessons were good, just how she approached me and other students, a lot of people had a negative view on that. So that was a big barrier for me going through that first placement, whether I even came out of it. You know, there was times when I thought, I don't know if this is the right job for me. But look, you know, family and friends got me through that because I talked about it, and thankfully I came through that, and obviously I am where I am now. So after the student mentor, which I thoroughly enjoyed, so I decided to go for the next job, and that was a Key Stage 3 coordinator. So the Key Stage 3 coordinator at secondary school, within the PE department, I was in charge of creating a curriculum map for years 7 to 9. So I kind of shaped the curriculum, what sports I think year 7 should do, 8 to 9, and so on. And again from there I moved on to another role, which was head of girls. So I oversaw the whole PE department for the girls PE, and obviously ran fixtures and clubs, and got a student voice in and things like that. So you know, when you're in charge, you have so much more control, and you can implement lots of like ideas, your passion, initiatives. But again, it is really important that you speak to people along the way. You see what people do and see what you think you would do differently. You know, there'll be times I go home at night and think, right, so this is what's in place, what can I do to change that? And all of that boded well for me again to move into my final position in secondary school, which was head of PE department. Again, it wasn't one of the easiest roles I've ever taken on, but for me, looking back on that position now, I can come away and think, well, maybe I did this, probably I might do it differently next time. We all have ideas. Sometimes we don't get those ideas across properly. So it is really important that we take a step back and think, right, well, what can I work on? What can I improve? And remember, we always have a long plan. So we can be short term, we can be medium plan, and we can have a long term plan. And as long as we see them through with the help of other people in the department, we get everybody on board, you can make changes. And I think for anybody going into those positions is always believe in yourself, because there's times where you doubt yourself, and that's absolutely normal. But you know, you have to know that you've done the hard work, you're prepared, you are organised, you have ideas, you speak to people, and then you can progress from there. And then that leads me on to being a primary PE specialist in LLS. So my role at LLS now is a primary PE specialist. So basically what my job involves is teaching all the years, from early years to year 6, a range of PE that the curriculum offers. So I'm really fortunate that from secondary, at year 7 to 11 and to 6th form, I decided that I wanted to change, and I wanted to go into something that made me realise and understand why there's a massive dropout in girls' sport, especially from around the age of years 8 and 9. So by that I took the opportunity to come and work for LLS and have a little look at the primary level of PE. Now I'm in a very fortunate position that the school that I work in is a very good school, and the opportunities that they have are very high and wide ranging. But what I would like to say to you all is that never be afraid of trying new things. Sometimes you do question yourself, but it's a challenge, and every day should be a challenge, because you're making a difference to anybody that you work with in a teaching profession. So for me, to be able to pass on my passion and to work with young children that will then hopefully later life remember these lessons and remember their enjoyment in those sports, and hopefully make them continue it, whether they have a career in that sport or not. It's something that will help them physically and mentally and keep them active, and hopefully their families active, and so on. So, you know, it is really a powerful thing to be a teacher and to be able to change lives. So going forward, I'd always like to recommend some top tips. So I'd say learn from every member of staff, every person you deal with, every person you meet along the way in your degree, outside, in jobs. Always ask questions and learn, because some of these people have been there a long time. Some people have just come out of uni and fresh with ideas. Some people have got experiences in other areas that you might not even think of. But to go with the learning, you've also got to listen. There'll be times where you think, oh, you know, I know, but you don't. Every single person you might pass might have something that you need to listen to, because it might help you in your career. But with that, you also need to work hard. There's no point being in a career or in a degree that you feel like you're just cruising along. You always need to keep striving to be the best at everything that you do. Take every opportunity, reach your potential. You can't do that if you don't work hard. Also, if you're not working hard, you might decide that this isn't for you. If you don't put it all in, then you won't truly know if this is a career for you. Avoid distractions as well. That's a difficult one. There'll be people around you that might not necessarily have the same drive as you. They might be a little bit of a negative influence on you. But on the flip side of that, someone who might be very encouraging, someone who might also guide you to where you need to be in terms of your career or education. I'd also think about your role models. Keep them in mind. Who are they? What do they do? Who have you spoken to that might be able to help you down that pathway as well? Ask questions, which I said before. I think I said that earlier on. Always ask. Don't be afraid of asking questions, because you never know what the answer might be. And that one question that you ask might be the start of something different. Some new ideas, it might be a new pathway, it might be able to change people's minds of you in terms of professional. But along that way, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are always part and parcel of learning. I've made plenty of mistakes along the way, but you have to, at some point you have to put your hand up and go, you know what, I was wrong, or be critical of yourself. I always, and I go back to teaching, but I always review my lessons at the end of the day. I think, oh, what could I do differently? How can I improve? Or even practice before you deliver. Practice what you're going to do for interviews. Don't ever think that it'll just come naturally, because most of the time you have to work for it. And what I'd say as well, to be able to reach your potential, never have a regret. If there's something that you want to do it, but some people might maybe try and put you off, but in your mind you know you want to do it, go out and do it, because the only things you'll ever regret is not doing something. Take the opportunities, because if you take the opportunities, even though it might be a little bit out of your comfort zone, you'll be really surprised at what you can achieve.